Hello. Welcome to Topher Stories, where stories comes alive. Please subscribe and share with friends. Now, relax and enjoy the story. It was a cold Monday morning when the news broke. Mr. George Thompson, the respected cocoa magnate of Oyo, had died in his sleep. The entire town mourned. His workers, neighbors, and even competitors came to his mansion to pay their respects. He had built his cocoa business from scratch, started with a single farm, and ended with over 15 export contracts across Europe and Asia. But his greatest pride was not the business. It was his two sons, Caleb, the firstborn, smart, calm, and strategic, and Derek, the younger, loud, fun-loving, and a bit reckless. At the funeral, everyone whispered, "Now the boys will take over. I hope they don't destroy what their father built. Caleb is mature, but Derek? 1 week after the burial, the family lawyer, Mr. Douglas, invited the brothers to his office. The room was quiet. A large desk separated the lawyer from the two brothers who sat stiffly, dressed in black. The walls were filled with law books, and a portrait of their father hung behind Mr. Douglas's chair. He cleared his throat. "Mr. Douglas. Gentlemen, your father left behind his will. I've been instructed to read it only in your presence." He opened a brown envelope, pulled out a typed letter, and read aloud. "To my sons, Caleb and Derek, if you are hearing this, then I am no more. First, know that I love you both equally. I built Thompson Cocoa for our family. It is not just a business. It is a legacy. As stated in the documents, both of you will inherit the entire company equally. However, I also left one final instruction in a sealed envelope. That envelope must not be opened until exactly 1 year after my death. Mr. Douglas will keep it safe until then." Caleb leaned forward, confused. "Caleb, a sealed envelope? Why not just tell us everything now?" "Mr. Douglas, those were your father's wishes. He believed you would understand why in time." Derek rolled his eyes and scoffed. "Derek, this man was always full of mystery. 1 year? What's in the envelope? Buried treasure?" Caleb shot him a sharp look. "Caleb, have some respect, Derek." "Derek, I'm just saying, we've buried the man. Can we now start enjoying the fruits?" Mr. Douglas sighed, pushing forward 2 folders. "Mr. Douglas, these are your documents. As of today, both of you own 50% each of Thompson Cocoa. You're now joint CEOs." The brothers stood, took their folders, and walked out in silence. At home that evening, Caleb sat at his father's old desk, reading company reports. Derek barged in, wearing designer sunglasses, and holding his phone. "Derek, bro, I've been thinking this company is worth billions. Why don't we sell off half the farms, buy some property in Lekki, and invest in crypto or something big?" Caleb looked up slowly. "Caleb, are you serious?" "Derek, dead serious. This cocoa business is old school. We can use the money to upgrade our lifestyle. I'm talking big cars, smart houses, vacations in Dubai." Caleb stood up, frustrated. "Caleb, our father spent 40 years building this. You want to tear it down in 1 month?" "Derek, I'm not tearing anything. I'm just saying we live once. Bro, cocoa is boring. Money should move." Caleb sighed deeply. "Caleb, that's not what Dad wanted." "Derek, well, Dad is gone. It's our turn now." 3 months later, the brothers had turned the company into a battlefield. Caleb had started upgrading machinery, renewing contracts, and planning to expand into Ghana. Derek, on the other hand, started throwing flashy launch parties, hiring influencers, and inviting random celebrities to the factory like it was a club. Their staff became confused. Clients started complaining. Workers didn't know whose instructions to follow. One morning, the argument exploded in front of the entire office. "Caleb, why did you approve N7 million for a cocoa influencer launch event? That money was for new drying machines." "Derek, because we need to move with the times, Caleb. We need noise. Vibes. If people don't know us online, we're finished. Caleb, we don't need noise. We need results. This is agriculture, not Big Brother." Derek clapped his hands mockingly. "Derek, And you think your boring board meetings are working? Wake up. It's 2025. Their HR manager quietly slipped away from the office. That night, Caleb visited Mr. Douglas again. Caleb, I can't work with him. We're going opposite directions. Mr. Douglas, are you sure splitting the business is wise? Caleb, it's better than watching it burn. 1 week later, they made it official. Thompson Cocoa was split down middle. 50% assets, staff, and properties to Caleb, and 50% to Derek. They signed the papers in silence. When Derek walked out, he smirked and turned to Caleb. Derek, I'll show you how to run a real empire. Caleb didn't reply. He just watched his younger brother walk away into what felt like a storm. In the months that followed, the once great Thompson name started to fade. The seeds of pride, ego, and foolishness had been planted, and no one, not even their late father, could stop what was coming next. Here's the full elaboration of Chapter 3. Women and Wolves in Chapter 4. Fake friends, real enemies, with vivid scenes and dialogue in easy-to-understand, emotionally engaging English. 3 months had passed since the split, and Derek was living like a celebrity. He had moved into a penthouse apartment in Victoria Island and turned his portion of the cocoa business into a fashion-forward brand called Cocoa Gold. His office had more cameras than staff, and he loved it that way. One night, at a luxury event hosted by a popular influencer, Derek met her. Vanessa. She wore a red silk dress, high heels that clicked with power, and eyes that could trap a man's soul. Vanessa, smiling, you must be the famous Cocoa Prince. Derek, grinning, and you must be the queen I've been looking for. They laughed. 2 glasses of champagne later, Derek was completely hooked. Vanessa became his shadow. She dressed him, advised him, and took over his PR. What Derek didn't know was Vanessa had a past. She had changed her name twice, left 3 rich men bankrupt, and had fake investment portfolios in her name. She saw Derek not as a lover, but as her next victim. One night, while they sat on a balcony overlooking the city lights, she leaned close and whispered, Vanessa, baby, imagine if we took Cocoa Gold global. I have a friend in Dubai who invests in export companies. Derek, really? Vanessa, yes, but we need capital. About 80 million naira. I can handle it, but I want us to do it together. Derek didn't blink. He nodded, kissed her forehead, and transferred the money the next day. Meanwhile, Caleb's journey was far different. After the business split, he found himself surrounded by older churchmen who claimed they had known his father. One Sunday, after service, a flamboyant preacher named Prophet Elisha approached him. Prophet Elisha, son, God told me you carry a heavy inheritance, but is under spiritual attack. Caleb blinked. Caleb, what do you mean? Prophet Elisha, closing his eyes, the spirit of division is hunting your destiny. Your father's enemies are working overtime, but I can help. Out of fear and pressure, Caleb started attending midnight prayers. The prophet came to his office, prayed over his boardroom table, anointed his walls with oil, and left handwritten prophetic instructions. Soon, Prophet Elisha told him, Prophet Elisha, God said you must plant a seed of faith, 25 million naira. Caleb, hesitant, that's a lot, sir. Prophet Elisha, do you want the business to crash? Or do you want God to multiply it? Caleb swallowed his doubt and transferred the money. Then came more demands. 15 million for a prayer mountain, 10 million for a new church building, another 20 million to seal the victory. His accounts began to bleed. But Caleb thought he was buying divine protection. By now, the media had noticed. Both brothers were trending. Derek for his designer clothes, celebrity parties, and a mysterious new fiancée. Caleb for his sudden silence and rumored connection to a controversial prophet. Headlines read, Cocoa heir and his woman of mystery. Prophet or prophet. Inside the spiritual empire controlling Thompson Jr. Derek's company was looking good on the outside, but inside, it was bleeding. Vanessa had secretly begun transferring ownership of shares to a shell company she controlled. She brought in a fake accountant, convinced Derek to sign routine documents, and siphon millions. One evening, Derek's longtime staff, Raymond, stormed into his office. Raymond, angrily, "Boss, you need to see this. There's a transaction here that doesn't make sense." Derek, laughing, "Relax. Bro, Vanessa handled that." Raymond, "That's the problem. She's not qualified, and I think she's playing you." Derek stood up, defensive. "Derek, don't you dare speak about it like that." Raymond, "I've been with this company since your father started it. Open your eyes, Derek. This woman is not who she says she is." Derek fired him that day. Meanwhile, Caleb had become paranoid. Despite all the prophetic payments, his factory was struggling. One shipment got delayed. Another was rejected due to poor quality. He called Prophet Alicia in a panic. "Caleb, you said the seed would protect the business. It's getting worse." "Prophet Alicia, you doubt God now? That's why things are failing. You need to go deeper. Fast. Pray. And yes, another seed is required. This time your car." Caleb handed over the keys to his Lexus SUV 2 days later. His workers started to murmur. Worker 1, Ogaday feared too much. Worker 2, Prophet Don turned him to ATM. But Caleb didn't care. He thought he was fighting spiritual battles. As the months rolled by, the brothers became famous, but not for success. Social media blew up with gossip. Bloggers posted videos of Derek dancing in clubs, while workers in his cocoa plant protested unpaid salaries. A former employee leaked a screenshot of Caleb sending millions to a prophet, calling him desperate and confused. Twitter exploded. From cocoa to clowns. What happened to the Thompson brothers? Beware of women and prophets. The internet dragged them. Their father's legacy began to rot in public. Even their late father's portrait in the office seemed to frown in silence. One night, Caleb sat alone in his office, looking at his empty bank dashboard. He whispered to himself, "Caleb, maybe, just maybe we were never ready." Miles away, Derek opened a safe and found it half empty. Vanessa had taken most of it and disappeared. His phone buzzed with a message from a private investigator he secretly hired. "Your fiancée Vanessa is real name Chioma Okafor, known con artist. 3 warrants. She left the country last night." Derek stared at the message, numb. Then he dropped his phone and laughed bitterly. Derek, to himself, so this is what foolishness looks like. And so, the wolves had eaten well. One brother was drained by a fake prophet. The other, destroyed by a beautiful con woman. Their father's business, once a shining tower, was now just a cracked wall. And they hadn't even reached the bottom yet. Here's a full elaboration of Chapter 5. The fall begins in Chapter 6. The secret will in vivid, emotionally powerful storytelling with easy-to-understand language, complete with dialogue and dramatic. It was 2:47 a.m. when Caleb's phone rang. The shrill sound pulled him out of a restless sleep. He reached for it groggily. "Caleb, hello?" Voice on phone, "Urgent, sir." "Sir, it's the warehouse. It's on fire." Caleb sat up instantly. "Caleb, what?" "Which warehouse?" Voice, "The main cocoa storage at Abaddon. Everything is burning." By 4 a.m., he was at the site. Fire trucks sprayed water, but it was too late. The air smelled of ash and smoke. Cocoa sacks had turned to black dust. His heart dropped as he saw his workers gathered, some crying. The site manager approached him, coughing. "Manager, sir, it was sudden. The guards say they heard a loud bang, then fire everywhere." Caleb, shaking, "Did anyone check the CCTV?" Manager, "We had cameras, sir, but the control room also burned. Everything is gone." The fire report later claimed electrical fault, but Caleb didn't believe it. His gut told him something else. He staggered away from the crowd and leaned against his car, staring at the flames still smoking in the early morning sky. Caleb whispering, "God, what have I done?" Meanwhile, Derek was facing a different kind of fire. He was at a 5-star hotel in Lagos, sipping wine by the pool, when a group of uniformed men approached him. Lead officer, "Mr. Derek Thompson?" Derek, smiling, "Yes. Can I help you?" Officer, "You're under arrest for fraud, unpaid loans, and tax evasion." Derek, "What?" Excuse me. Officer, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say may be used against you in court. Before he could speak again, handcuffs clicked around his wrists. Cameras from hotel guests were already rolling. One guest whispered to another. Guest 1, isn't that the Coco Gold guy? Guest 2, yes, that's him. What happened? Guest 1, fraud, I think. Didn't his girlfriend run away with his money? By the time the police pushed him into the van, his face was already on Twitter. In the police cell, Derek sat on the cold floor, rubbing his face. His phone had been seized. His bank account was frozen. The people who once praised him were now ghosts. He buried his head in his knees and muttered, Derek, Vanessa, Chioma, how could I be so stupid? At the same time, Caleb was trying to speak to his bank manager. Caleb, I need an emergency loan to cover the damage. Manager, Mr. Caleb, your credit line is maxed, and with recent losses, we can't approve any more loans. Caleb, you don't understand. That Coco was worth over $400 million. If I don't deliver. Manager, cutting in, I'm sorry. Our hands are tied. Caleb stood outside the bank with his coat in his hand and sweat on his forehead. Once, he had walked into the same bank like a king. Now, they treated him like a beggar. That same week, social media exploded with headlines. Thompson Brothers' empire crumbles, arrests, fires, and scandals. The rise and fall of Nigeria's cocoa princes. Women, profits, and pride. A family's billion-naira mistake. One radio host even joked. Radio host. Their father gave them cocoa, and they turned it into nonsense. The brothers had become a national lesson in foolishness. But fate wasn't done with them yet. Exactly 1 year after their father's death, Mr. Douglas, the family lawyer, sat in his office staring at a brown sealed envelope. He sighed and dialed Caleb. Mr. Douglas, today is the day. Caleb, quietly, I'll be there. Then he called Derek, who had just been granted bail. Mr. Douglas, you need to be present. Your father's final letter will be opened today. Derek, flatly, after everything, what else could he possibly say? An hour later, the two broken brothers sat across from each other in Mr. Douglas's office. Caleb looked thinner. His eyes were sunken. Derek looked tired, wearing a hoodie and cap, avoiding eye contact. Mr. Douglas placed the envelope between them. Mr. Douglas, this has been sealed for a year. Your father instructed me to read it aloud, no matter the situation. He opened it slowly, pulled out a handwritten letter, and began to read. To my sons, Caleb and Derek, if you're hearing this, it means 1 year has passed since I left you. I hope you're still standing, and if not, I hope this letter helps you rise again. I know your strengths. Caleb, you are wise but prideful. You believe logic solves everything, but wisdom without humility is dangerous. Derek, you are bold and creative, but your heart is too open and your hands too quick to spend. Passion without control is poison. I watched you both grow, and I also watched the wolves that surrounded you. The women, the fake prophets, the smooth-talking friends. I knew they would come. That is why I prepared this letter. Not to scold you, but to guide you, in the event that you fail. And I feared you must find each other again. Only together can you rebuild what I spent my life building. I left a reconciliation plan with Mr. Douglas. Follow it exactly. It includes contacts, staff, suppliers, and trusted mentors. I also left a private bank account for emergencies, with just enough money to restart, not to enjoy, but to rebuild. And finally, I want you to kneel and forgive each other, not as a ritual, but as brothers. The world is watching, but more importantly, your future is waiting. Your father, George Thompson. By the time the letter ended, the room was silent. Caleb looked down at the floor. Derek rubbed his face, his hands trembling. Mr. Douglas reached under his desk and pulled out a document folder and a bank token. Mr. Douglas, this contains a plan and access to the emergency account. Your father deposited 100 million naira there. It's not much compared to what you lost, but it's more than enough for a second chance. Caleb spoke first. Caleb, I thought I knew everything, but I let fear rule me. Derek looked up, voice breaking. Derek, I let greed blind me, and I pushed away the one person who warned me, you. They stared at each other. Slowly, Caleb stood. Then, so did Derek. No words. Just a long, painful hug. They both knelt, as their father had instructed, and silently forgave each other. Outside the lawyer's office, the sky was clear. For the first time in a long time, there was peace between them. The fall had been great, but maybe, just maybe, the rise was about to begin. The sun was scorching that afternoon as Caleb walked into the empty warehouse in Ape, their last functioning factory. Dust danced in the air. The once busy factory was now silent. Machines were shut down. Workers long gone. He saw Derek standing at the far end, leaning on a broken conveyor belt. Both brothers hadn't spoken in days, despite the lawyer's meeting. Caleb walked up slowly. Caleb, so this is it. Derek, dry laugh, the last cocoa temple, and we're the clowns standing in its ruins. They stared at each other. Caleb, we had everything, Derek. Everything. And now nothing. Derek, angrily, don't act like it was just me. You were busy sowing sacrificial seeds to that fake prophet while I carried the business. Caleb, carried it? You mean the same business you almost sold to buy Vanessa a house in Dubai? Derek, at least I didn't set it on fire with stupidity. Caleb steps forward. You're unbelievable. We got a second chance from Dad. Real money, a plan, and what did we do? Fought. Again. Derek, voice rising. You're the one who always wants control. Always judging. Always the wise one. Look where your wisdom got us. They stood chest to chest. Two angry, wounded brothers. No one moved. Then Derek stepped back and kicked a rusted machine. Derek, they're auctioning this place tomorrow. Caleb, I know. Derek, mocking, trending on Twitter again. Look. He pulled out his phone. Hashtag Cocoa Fools. They inherited billions and lost it all. Nollywood should hire them. Caleb and Derek. Lessons in Pride 101. Caleb didn't speak. His throat was tight. The next day, men in suits came with papers and cameras. Auctioneers walked around, tagging machines and loading trucks. An old worker, Mama Amina, approached the brothers. Mama Amina, my sons, I worked here for 25 years. I carried cocoa on my head when your father built this place. Now I see it fall and it breaks my heart. Caleb lowered his head. Caleb, we're sorry, Mama. We let him down. Mama Amina, no, you let yourselves down. She walked away slowly. No drama, just deep disappointment. The factory gate closed for the final time that evening. The media had their final story. Thompson Cocoa closes down. End of an empire. The brothers returned to Caleb's small rented apartment in Surrey. The silence was heavy. Then came a knock on the door. It was Franklin, a childhood friend. Tall, quiet, and dressed in a simple white shirt. Franklin, I heard about everything. Caleb, forced smile come to laugh. Franklin, no, I came with an opportunity. He placed a brown file on the table. Franklin, I run a small agro-export firm. I'm about to sign a cocoa deal with a South African chain. I need hands. Experienced ones. Derek, suspicious. And you want us? Why? Franklin, serious. Because I still believe in both of you. But there's a condition. Caleb, what condition? Franklin, you must work together. No division. No secrets. No pride. You fail together or win together. The room was silent. Derek, this is a joke. Franklin, no, it's your last shot. I can't fix your past, but I'm giving you a window. Take it or keep drowning in memory. He stood. Franklin, call me in 24 hours. After that, the deal is off. The brothers argued the entire night. Derek, why do we need him? We can start something else. Caleb, with what money? What assets? That account is empty. We wasted it. Derek, and whose fault is that? You were too proud to even consult me when you paid that prophet millions. Caleb, And you? You let a woman sign contracts in your name. How do I trust you again? The argument flared, then faded into exhaustion. Both fell asleep in silence. The next morning, Caleb woke up early. He sat alone at the table, staring at their father's final letter again. Only together can you rebuild. His hands trembled. He picked up the phone and called Franklin. Caleb, we'll do it. We'll try. Franklin sent a car. The job wasn't glamorous. Supervising farms, inspecting quality, even packing boxes. They wore uniforms. No titles, just names on name tags. The first week was tense. Derek, while lifting sacks, so this is what it's come to, from CEOs to cocoa laborers. Caleb, it's honest work. Let's just get it right this time. But old wounds resurfaced. During a key delivery, Derek noticed that Caleb had secretly requested Franklin to let him handle the supplier meeting alone. Derek, angry, you're still doing it. Still cutting me out. Caleb, I didn't want to risk losing the deal. Derek, you don't trust me. That's the real truth. Caleb, because you keep proving I shouldn't. Derek punched a crate in frustration. Derek, then why are we even here, Caleb? He stormed out of the warehouse. Later that night, Franklin called Caleb aside. Franklin, why did you do it behind his back? Caleb, I was afraid. What if he messed it up again? Franklin, you're not just rebuilding a business, Caleb. You're rebuilding trust. If you don't fix that, nothing will work. The next morning, Caleb found Derek at the back of the office. Caleb, quietly, I messed up. Derek didn't look at him. Caleb, I didn't trust you, and I know that hurts, but I'm asking for a reset, not as a partner, but as your brother. Derek finally turned. Derek, you're scared. I get it. I am too. He stood. Derek, let's try again. This time, for real. They shook hands. Not strong or proud, just human. And for the first time in a long while, it felt real. Lagos was busy as always. Cars honking, street hawkers shouting, and life moving fast. But in one quiet corner of Ojalegba Bridge, a young blogger was live streaming. His camera zoomed in on a familiar, broken man sitting by the roadside. Torn jeans, dusty shirt, blood on his lip. It was Derek Thompson. He was sobbing into his hands. Derek, on camera, I had it all. Cars, houses, power. I lost everything. Because I was too proud to listen. I betrayed my own brother. The blogger, shocked, asked, Are you really the Derek from Thompson Cocoa? Derek nodded slowly. Derek, yes, I am one of the two foolish brothers. The blogger's audience exploded in the comments. No way. That's really him. He looks finished. This is heartbreaking. God, forgive us for laughing at them. The video spread like wildfire. Hashtag Derek Thompson confession. Hashtag the foolish brothers no more. Hashtag forgive Derek. Meanwhile, in Suralere, Caleb sat in his small office, trying to finalize a delivery report. His assistant, Bola, rushed in. Bola, sir, you need to see this. She showed him the viral clip. As Derek cried and confessed, Caleb's hand froze. His breath caught. He couldn't move. Caleb whispers, What happened to you, Derek? He rewound the video and watched again. Tears slid down his cheeks. That night, Caleb went out looking for him. He visited hospitals, police stations, even the underbridge shelters. But no one had seen Derek since the video. Caleb, to a shelter worker, he's my brother. Please, if he comes here, call me. I just want to help him. But it was already too late. The next day, news broke. Unidentified man killed in a street brawl last night in Mushin. When Caleb arrived at the morgue, the tag on the cold metal table read, D. Thompson. He fell to the floor, screaming, Caleb, no! No, please! Not like this, not like this. The funeral was held on a gray, quiet morning. Not many people came, just a few old staff, Franklin, and some family friends. But hundreds watched online. The video of Derek's confession had touched millions. At the graveside, Caleb stood in a black suit, holding a small, folded paper, his father's final letter. He looked down at the casket, unable to speak for a moment. Then, in a shaky voice, he began to read. Caleb, reading, "To my sons, Caleb and Derek, you will inherit my wealth. But if you inherit my wealth and not my wisdom, you will lose everything. If you fight each other, the world will laugh. But if you forgive each other, the world will learn. This empire was built with cocoa, but it must be rebuilt with character. One day, when I am gone, you will need each other more than money. Remember that." Caleb folded the letter. Caleb, he warned us, and we didn't listen. He looked at the crowd. Caleb, my brother was not perfect. Neither was I. But deep down, he had a good heart. We both made mistakes. But we also wanted to make things right. His voice cracked. Caleb, I lost my brother before I could say, "I forgive you." He turned to the grave and knelt. Caleb, softly, "I'm sorry, Derek. I failed you. I should have protected you. I should have tried harder." After the burial, Franklin found Caleb sitting alone under a tree. "Franklin, you okay?" Caleb, "No, but I will be." He handed Franklin a file. Caleb, "I'm starting a foundation, in Derek's name, for boys who come from nothing and lose everything, like we did. I want to teach them about money, business, and forgiveness." Franklin smiled, tears in his eyes. Franklin, that's the Caleb I knew back in school. A few months later, the Derek Thompson Foundation launched in Ajagunal. The opening speech trended online. We were the two foolish brothers. But foolishness taught us wisdom. This foundation isn't about money. It's about healing. It's about legacy. The video reached over 10 million views in a week. People began calling it the most painful but powerful redemption story in Africa. And that's how the foolish brothers left behind more than wealth. They left a warning. They left a lesson. They left a legacy.